I'm still turning the edge. Now this stage is pretty critical because I'm going to be losing a lot of width, and I'm going to try to flatten that out as much as I can and establish the thickness early. You know, if the preform was wider, I wouldn't be so worried about losing width, but it's fairly narrow. That's what happens when you try to take off too much. Now, I guess I could use one strategy that says, you know, you can drive flakes off kind of a beveled edge this way, and then flip it over and do the same. That way you'll end up with a flat piece, not straight like this, but like this. See how this face is flat here? I could try to do that same thing, but then as long as the base is lined up with what you're doing, it'll work. Otherwise, you can have a blade that's curved or tilted like this, and then the base that's tilted the other way. So I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to send flakes across this way, flatten that out, turn it over, send flakes across, flatten it out, and in the end I should have a blade that's going down this way with flat on both sides. Let's see how that works. I'm going to get rid of this here. We'll wait till later to deal with that. Everything else is flaking pretty good. So it's working pretty good to flatten this out, except for that area right there. And what I'll do is I'm going to grind this and see if I can send a flake in. Grind this too. Yeah, I tried to remove too much. Luckily with this material it's easy to pick those steps off. It's working fairly well, but I mean, it has to work almost perfectly in order to get it flat. Because unless you get the surface completely flat, that beveling is not going to look right. And I'll show you what I mean toward the end. Yeah, my platforms are not very strong. It's mainly because I'm using a natural abrader and I'm not putting enough elbow grease into it. These platforms need to be a lot stronger. My artificial abrader is getting really small. I've got a concrete block over there too. I could probably use that. Okay. I may have to abandon the methodical approach and just go with random flake removal so I can do the damage control and fix this. Because with a methodical approach, every strike has to be almost perfect. With a random, you can just go ahead and do it, whatever damage control is needed. That looks fairly flat there. See, the flakes run from here to there fairly flat. Still get that area in here that's giving me trouble. Maybe able to come back later on toward the end of the point and take that off. I can't do it now because there's too many steps in there. The main body looks like it's responding pretty good to the flaking technique. It's just the tip that's giving me some trouble. See how it's getting flatter? And the base is lined up with that. This line here on the base is lined up with this flatness, if that makes any sense. So I'm just going to continue to grind and continue to reduce it down, and then I'll bevel it and then put the notches in. I should probably put the notches in first. So from here on in, that flattening worked out pretty good. I'm just going to use a random flaking technique from now, for now, to clean this up. There's a lot of bumps and stuff that will make the beveling look odd. So I'm just going to take flakes wherever. just ground down a lot of that point because I need to really get rid of this mess in here. I'm able to thin it pretty good down at, like I said, down at the toward the base. Still some clunky spots, but pretty sure I can get rid of those. I gotta start thinking about the base now, what shape it is, so I don't mess it up for the notching. Okay, so I gotta try to make this as flat as possible. Both faces. This is getting pretty flat on this side, except for that, but it's got to be almost perfect, like I said, so that the beveling looks correct. I think I'm running into some fossils or something because it's not cooperating at all. So I just took quite a bit off the tip. Okay, so heavy grinding before I start beveling. There's a few more areas I need to knock down for the flatness, for the overall flatness of the point. I'll start beveling here pretty soon. hard to see the flake scar pattern with this material. I'm going to see if I can get a shot in the sunlight here. Okay, again, so heavy abrading all the way around. See if I can get a shot in the sunlight. Large flakes, try not to have too many steps in there. Fairly thick all the way through. I am going to thin down the base before I notch it, but I'm going to leave this thickness the way it is. I'll dress it up a little bit so you can see the general outline of the unbeveled dovetail, and then I'll start beveling. I'm going to cut it off here and take another break.